The Texas night stretched endlessly, painted with stars that shimmered across the dark sky. The long stretch of highway between Dallas and Fort Worth seemed deserted, the silence broken only by the distant hum of crickets hidden in the grass. Emily tightened her grip on the steering wheel of her old sedan, whispering a quiet prayer that the engine would hold out a little longer. She was only 19, yet life had placed a heavy burden on her shoulders. In the back seat, her 4-year-old daughter, Lily, slept peacefully, hugging a ragged little doll that had been her favorite since she was a baby. Emily glanced at her daughter's face, and for a brief moment, she felt comfort. But it didn't last. The engine sputtered, coughed, and finally gave out, leaving them stranded in the middle of nowhere. Emily managed to guide the car onto the shoulder and turned on the hazard lights. The red flashes looked weak against the vast emptiness around her. She sat there for a moment, her chest tight with panic. "Don't lose it," she told herself. Lily needed her calm, not her fear. She reached for her phone, but the battery was nearly gone, and there was no signal anyway. Calling for help wasn't an option. All she could do was wait. The air outside was cool, carrying a faint smell of dust and gasoline. Emily stepped out, pulling her worn jacket tight around her body. The highway stretched into the distance, with no headlights in sight. The thought of being stuck out there was terrifying. Her mind raced with worst-case scenarios, wild animals, strangers with bad intentions, or hours of waiting in the cold until sunrise. Time dragged painfully. Every minute felt like an hour. From the back seat, Lily stirred, her little voice barely audible as she called for her mom. Emily leaned down by the window and brushed her daughter's hair gently. "It's all right, sweetheart. Mommy will figure it out." Lily gave her a sleepy smile, the kind only a child could manage, and drifted back to sleep. That smile gave Emily a spark of strength, but the weight of the night pressed heavier than ever. And then, finally, she saw it. 2 faint beams of light appearing on the horizon. Headlights. Her heart leapt with hope but quickly filled with fear. Who would be driving down this empty road at such an hour? Should she wave them down, or was it safer to stay quiet and hidden? The vehicle drew closer, the sound of its engine cutting through the still night air. It wasn't a sleek, expensive car. Instead, it was an old, dented pickup truck that looked like it had seen better days. Its rusty paint and squeaky tires made it look worn, but reliable. Emily swallowed hard as the truck slowed and pulled over right next to her car. The driver's door creaked open, and out stepped a tall young man. His hands were rough and stained with grease, his boots scuffed from long days of work. In his right hand, he carried a small toolbox. Despite the rugged appearance, his posture was calm, his voice steady as he called out, "Hey there, you need some help?" Emily froze. Her instincts told her to be careful, but something in his voice didn't feel threatening. It carried honesty, even warmth. From the back seat, Lily peeked through the window, clutching her doll tightly. "Mommy, who is he?" she asked softly. Emily forced a smile and whispered back, "It's okay, honey. He's here to help." The young man gave a faint smile. "Name's Jake," he said simply. "I'm a mechanic from Fort Worth. Mind if I take a look at your car?" Emily hesitated, then nodded. Jake walked to the front of the sedan and popped the hood. With practiced ease, he leaned in, shining a small flashlight and checking cables and fluids. The moonlight caught the stains on his hands as his tools clinked softly against the metal. Emily stood nearby, torn between fear and a strange sense of relief. She didn't know this man, and yet she felt oddly safer than she had in hours. It was as if, for once, someone had appeared not to take from her, but to simply help. From the back seat, Lily broke the silence with a sleepy question. "Mommy, is he a hero?" Emily's throat tightened. For Lily, the world was still simple. Heroes and villains, good and bad. For Emily, things were never that clear. Yet, as she watched Jake work under the hood with calm determination, she couldn't help but wonder if her daughter was right. After a few minutes, Jake straightened up. Battery's weak. Alternator's not in great shape either. But don't worry. I can rig something to get you home tonight. Emily nodded, watching every move as he set to work. The night air filled with the rhythmic clinks of metal on metal, the sound strangely reassuring. When the engine finally coughed back to life, Emily let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Relief washed over her. Jake wiped his hands on a rag and gave a small smile. There you go. Not perfect, but it'll get you where you need to go. Emily stared at him, unsure what to say. Gratitude and suspicion wrestled inside her. In her life, kindness always seemed to come with strings attached. But from the back seat came Lily's innocent voice, filled with awe. Thank you, mister. You're really nice. Emily glanced at her daughter, then back at Jake. The night no longer felt quite so heavy, and deep inside, she sensed that what had just happened was more than a broken car being fixed. It was the beginning of a story she would never forget. The road was quiet again, the hum of the revived engine steady but fragile. Emily kept her hands on the steering wheel, yet her eyes couldn't stop drifting toward Jake. He stood by his old truck, arms crossed, waiting to be sure her car wouldn't quit again. The glow of the headlights lit him up against the empty Texas night, an image that stayed with her long after she pulled away. She lowered the window and called out, her voice trembling with curiosity and caution. Do you always help strangers in the middle of the night? Jake shrugged, his tone simple and honest. When somebody needs help, you don't wait for a better time. I know what it's like when no one shows up. Those words struck deep. Emily had lived through too many nights when no one came. She thought of the hours spent rocking Lily when she was sick, the days she went hungry so her daughter could eat. The loneliness of those moments was unbearable, and hearing someone else speak of that pain made her chest tighten. From the back seat, Lily's small voice piped up with innocent curiosity. How did you learn to fix cars? Jake walked closer, crouching so he was eye level with her through the window. His rough features softened with the dim glow of the car's interior light. Started young. My dad left when I was a kid. My mom worked double shifts, so I had to step up. Fixed my first Chevy before I turned 13. Been at it ever since. Lily giggled, hugging her worn doll tighter. Then you're like a superhero with cars. Emily couldn't help but smile at her daughter's boldness. Usually Lily was shy, clinging to her mother whenever strangers came near. But with Jake, she seemed to feel safe instantly. That trust unsettled Emily, yet warmed her at the same time. The night grew colder, a sharp breeze making Emily shiver. Jake noticed and slipped off his jacket, holding it out to her. Here, take it. She hesitated, then shook her head politely. I'm fine. But her voice betrayed her, and Jake didn't press. He simply draped it over the hood of his truck, his gesture quiet but sincere. After a moment of silence, Emily asked softly, Do you live around here? Yeah, he replied. Got a small place in Fort Worth. Work at a shop during the day. Pick up odd jobs when I can. There was no shame in his voice, only quiet pride. That struck Emily harder than she expected. She had come from a family that once talked about college, stability, and dreams. But those dreams ended the moment she became a mother at 15. Her parents, embarrassed and cold, insisted on pretending Lily was her sister. Since then, Emily had carried the truth like a secret chain around her neck. She thought about telling Jake right then. But fear held her back. What if he looked at her the way so many others had, with pity, or worse, with judgment? Lily yawned in the back seat, rubbing her eyes. Mommy, can we go home now? Emily stroked her daughter's hair gently. Almost, sweetheart. Jake closed the hood, wiped his hands, and put his tools away. Emily stepped closer, meaning to thank him, but words caught in her throat. She wasn't used to accepting kindness. She wasn't used to trusting. Jake broke the silence. No need for thanks. I'm just glad you weren't left out here alone. Emily frowned slightly. But why? Why do all this for us? He met her gaze calmly. Because I've been where you are, and I know what it feels like when nobody cares enough to stop. Her defenses cracked a little more. It was as though he had spoken directly to her soul. From the back seat, Lily's voice rose again, innocent and unfiltered. "Mommy, can we take him home with us?" Emily let out a nervous laugh, her cheeks warm. Jake chuckled too, but the moment lingered. Her daughter had voiced what she herself didn't dare say, that maybe she didn't want to keep walking this road alone. The minutes passed, and Emily knew she needed to leave. Yet something inside her resisted. This night felt different, like a turning point. She wanted to hold on to it. Jake scribbled something on a scrap of paper and handed it to her. "My number, in case the car gives you trouble again. Call me, doesn't matter what time it is." She accepted it, her hand trembling. The paper felt heavier than it should have, as though it carried a promise she wasn't ready to name. As she climbed into the driver's seat, Jake's final words echoed in the night. "You're stronger than you think." Emily blinked back tears. For years, no one had told her that, and in that moment, she realized this night would not simply fade into memory. It had marked her forever. The sedan rolled steadily along the dark Texas highway, but Emily's mind was far from calm. The little slip of paper with Jake's phone number sat folded in her purse, heavier than it had any right to be. She kept thinking about his words, his steady gaze, and the way he'd spoken to Lily as if she were the most important child in the world. Part of her longed to trust him. Another part, the part built on scars and disappointments, screamed for her to stay guarded. Days turned into weeks, but Emily couldn't shake the memory of that night. Every time her car rattled, she thought of Jake. Every time Lily mentioned him, which she often did, Emily felt her chest tighten. She even picked up her phone once or twice, dialing the first few digits of his number, only to hang up before completing the call. What would she even say? What would a man like him want with a 19-year-old single mother, still pretending her daughter was her sister? But fate had a way of showing up when least expected. One Saturday afternoon, Emily was in downtown Dallas, juggling grocery bags while trying to keep up with Lily, who was skipping ahead with her doll in hand. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out behind her. "Need some help again?" She spun around, her heart skipping. There he was, Jake, wearing that same worn jacket, holding a bag of car parts. His smile was casual, but his eyes carried that same calm steadiness she remembered. Lily's face lit up. "Jake!" she squealed, running to him without hesitation, hugging his leg like she'd known him forever. Emily froze for a moment, then let out a nervous laugh. "Looks like life wants us to keep running into each other." "Or maybe it's not just coincidence," Jake replied, his voice light but meaningful. They ended up at a small diner nearby, the kind with checkered floors and red vinyl booths. While Lily munched happily on a grilled cheese sandwich, Emily and Jake talked. He shared stories of his mother, of growing up with little, and of how fixing cars had been less a choice and more a way to survive. Emily found herself listening closely, drawn to the honesty in his voice. But when it came to her own story, she pulled back. She mentioned her little sister, avoiding the truth that burned inside her. The lie she'd told for years sat heavy on her tongue, but she didn't dare reveal it. Soon, Jake became part of their lives in small, unassuming ways. He helped when the car acted up. He joined them at the park, laughing with Lily as she ran circles around them. He even fixed their old television, earning Lily's endless admiration. "Uncle Jake," she started calling him, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. But the closer he came, the more unbearable Emily's secret grew. Each laugh they shared, each smile Lily gave him, made Emily ache with guilt. How long could she keep pretending? How long before the truth tore everything apart? That moment came on a stormy night. Rain pounded against the roof of Emily's small apartment. Inside, the three of them sat on the couch, the flicker of cartoons filling the room. The thunder outside seemed to mirror Emily's pounding heart. And then, with the innocent bluntness of a child, Lily spoke. "Mommy, why don't you tell Jake I'm your daughter for real?" The words sliced through the room. Emily went pale. Jake turned his head, eyes wide in confusion, while Lily simply hugged her doll, oblivious to the weight of what she had said. Emily bolted to the kitchen, her chest tight, her hands trembling. She couldn't breathe. The truth she had guarded for years was out. She pressed her palms against the counter, tears stinging her eyes. Jake followed slowly, stopping in the doorway. He didn't speak at first, just watched her struggle for breath. Finally, Emily forced the words out, her voice breaking. "It's true. Lily isn't my sister. She's my daughter. I had her when I was 15. My parents couldn't handle the shame. They told everyone she was my little sister. I've raised her alone ever since." The rain hammered harder against the windows, as though echoing her pain. Emily braced herself for the look she had seen so many times before. Disappointment, pity, judgment. She hated herself for even caring what he thought. But Jake said nothing. His silence pressed down heavier than thunder. Emily's tears fell freely now. "I knew it," she whispered. "This is where you walk away too." Her voice cracked, her shoulders shook, and for the first time in years, she felt completely exposed. She had fought so long to hide her truth, to protect her daughter, and now that the words were spoken, she felt sure everything would crumble. In that stormy night, Emily believed she had lost the one person who might have truly seen her. Emily stood in the kitchen, her tears falling onto the counter as the storm raged outside. She couldn't bring herself to look at Jake. Every second of his silence was another confirmation in her mind. He would leave, just like everyone else. Her secret was out, and with it, the fragile hope she had dared to feel. But when she finally gathered the courage to glance up, what she saw in his eyes wasn't pity or judgment. It was something entirely different: respect. Jake stepped forward, his voice calm and steady. "You've raised her on your own since you were just a kid. Emily, that doesn't make you weak. That makes you stronger than anyone I've ever met." Her breath caught in her chest. She had braced herself for rejection, for the familiar sting of shame. Instead, his words pierced straight through the walls she had built around her heart. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I've lied for years, saying she was my sister. I've lived with the guilt of hiding her, of living in fear of the truth. I've carried it like a scar." Jake shook his head slowly. "No, I do understand. I've carried scars too. You don't survive without them, but the truth? It doesn't make you less. It sets you free." Before Emily could respond, tiny footsteps echoed through the hallway. Lily appeared, clutching her doll, her wide eyes filled with worry. She ran straight into her mother's arms. "Don't cry, Mommy," she said softly. "Now he knows, and it's not so bad, right?" Emily choked on a laugh, hugging her daughter tight. Jake crouched down beside them, meeting Lily's gaze with a smile full of warmth. "You're right, kiddo. It's not bad at all. It just makes me admire your mom even more." The tension in the room broke, replaced by something gentler, almost fragile. Emily wiped her tears, realizing for the first time in years that someone had truly seen her. Not just her mistakes, not just her struggles, but her strength. In the weeks that followed, Jake remained a steady presence in their lives. He didn't push his way in, but he didn't drift away either. He was there to fix the car when it stuttered, to laugh with Lily at the park, to sit quietly on the porch when Emily needed company. One Sunday afternoon, they walked through a small park near Dallas. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and orange. Lily ran ahead chasing butterflies, while Emily and Jake walked side by side. He slowed his steps and looked at her. "Ever think that night on the highway wasn't an accident?" Emily smiled faintly. "You mean fate?" "Maybe," he said. Sometimes life has a way of putting the right people on the same road. She didn't answer, but deep down she felt the truth in his words. That night had started as a nightmare, with fear, loneliness, and a broken-down car. Yet, it had become the turning point she didn't know she needed. Over time, Lily's affection for Jake only grew. She adored him, clinging to his hand as though he'd always been part of their little world. And for Emily, he became more than just the mechanic who showed up at midnight. He became proof that kindness still existed, that trust wasn't dead, and that even the deepest wounds could begin to heal. One evening, sitting together on Emily's porch while Lily played with her doll inside, Jake spoke quietly. "You know, I never thought anyone would look at me as more than a grease-stained mechanic. But you see me differently." Emily swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. "And I never thought anyone would see me as more than my past. But you do." Their eyes met, and in that moment, no more words were needed. It wasn't just romance blooming between them. It was something deeper, a bond of trust, of resilience, of second chances. The storm that once threatened to break Emily had passed. Now, when she thought back to that dark highway, she no longer felt fear. Instead, she remembered the night hope returned, the night a stranger had reminded her that she was not alone. And maybe that's the lesson hidden in their story. Even in the loneliest moments, when the night feels endless and the world unforgiving, kindness can appear in the most unexpected ways. A single act can change everything. So, as you finish hearing this story, ask yourself, how many times has life placed someone on your path just when you needed them most? If this story touched your heart, leave a comment, share it with someone you love, and follow our channel for more. Because at the end of the day, we all face dark roads. And maybe, just maybe, someone is waiting there to remind us that hope never dies.